were working. So where did we drop the ball?
That's a question. Where did we drop the ball? How come the understanding about even this richness and wealth that, of history that we have as a country, there's a pure lack of interest in understanding it? Let's go back to Uhuru Gardens and get the latest from there. Emmanuel Toy is on standby. Emmanuel, back to you. What can you tell us now?
Well, Fred, we've just moved away from the other gate, the regular gate where Kenyans like us enter through. But we are now at the VIP entrance where we expect that the big names, the dignitaries that are going to grace this occasion are going to come in through. And a few minutes ago, we saw some of the members of parliament. Some of them have just gone straight into the podium. But we've been able to catch up with one of the member of the County Assembly of Nyamira, Irene Mayaka, who is just going to speak to us briefly. Perhaps, Mheshimiwa, thank you very much for your time. You came all the way from Nyamira to this place.
Yes.
What is the significance of this day to you?
For me, the significance of this place is, number one, that our country is now 58 years of gaining independence. And secondly, for me, it's also about the color trooping, because today we get to have an opportunity to see which battalion will again join into part of our forces and to be part of the color trooping. So the colorfulness of that event and what our defense forces do for us is what for me excites me. And also as a country just celebrating 58 years of independence. I was just saying that our country has really grown old, and for me that's very exciting.
Okay. And perhaps in your own assessment as a member of the County Assembly, in terms of devolution, how has President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration entrenched that into the country?
For me, I think the president has really done a good job, because number one, for us who are in Kisii region, we now have access to a central bank. Before that, we had to go all the way to Kisumu to do some of these bulk deposits. But now, right within our region, we have a central bank that serves the 6 other counties within the region. Secondly, for me, it's about enabling the devolved governments to be able to run some of the affairs of the country. The Huduma centers and that sort of thing. They're able to do some of the things that would have otherwise meant that people have to travel to the specific provinces to be able to access these services. So the national government allowing major factors of the government to be devolved, health to be devolved, the agriculture aspect to be devolved, it has really given power to the people who are nearer to the people on the ground to be able to give these services to our people directly.
Okay. And we also expect that the president is going to give a scorecard of some sort for himself, now that he has been in office for 9 years. In your own assessment, how many points, in a scale of 1 to 10, how many marks would you give him?
In a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give the president 8. And the reason why I'm saying this is because our country has really opened up, especially in terms of matters infrastructure. Before this, and Uhuru Gardens is a good example, we only were able to do these functions at Nyayo Stadium or Kasarani or Uhuru Park. Now we have an additional facility, which after this will then be enable people to use the facility elsewhere. If you look at back home, the roads that link up Kisumu, Migori to Kisii, those roads have opened up. It now takes you 1 hour 15 minutes from Kisii to Kisumu, a journey that would take you 2 hours 30 minutes. So for me, when infrastructure is opened up, the roads are opened up, it gives more access to people to be able to access different types of facilities. It enables people who are farmers to be able to transport their goods. So for me, that is a very big gain.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Fred, of course, that has been one of the members of the County Assembly of Nyamira, Irene Mayaka, just giving us some updates in terms of what she thinks about the performance of the president 9 years into the office and 1 year to go, or less, about 8 months too. And of course, we are going to give you more details as to what is going to be constructed here. I'm going to give you those details in just a minute after I hand over to my colleague Muremi Mwangi, who is on the other side of this stadium. Over to you, Muremi.
Yes, I can hear you. The 58th Jamhuri Day celebrations happening here at Uhuru Gardens, not far off from the main speeches now. Possibly in the next 1 hour or 1.5 hours, we will be having the main dignitaries arriving here. Lots of expectations from Kenyans on this day, given the timings within which these Jamhuri Days celebrations are happening. And of course, reflecting back to the last such celebrations that we had in Kirinyaga, the Mashujaa Day celebrations, we did see the president open up the economy, put a stop to some of the restrictions that had been occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. Possibly, Kirui, what should we expect from the president's speech today in your analysis?
Yes, of course, the issue about the COVID-19 pandemic will actually play out majorly in this particular address, the 58th Jamhuri Day celebrations, considering that we have a new variant in Omicron, which there are fears that perhaps it's with us in the country. We've seen other countries like the South African region specifically having been affected by that. We've seen cases reported in our neighboring Uganda country. So we will be expecting President Uhuru Kenyatta as well to touch on the measures which the government will put in place to ensure that we deal with the Omicron, as well as whether we'll be having restriction of movements in and out of the country. Those are some of the issues which will actually play out in this particular address. Of course, there are issues about as well the Big Four agenda. If you look at the last Jamhuri Day address, President Uhuru Kenyatta highlighted the major strides that the Jubilee government has done, considering that it's about 8 months or so to the 2022 general election. And this is the last Jamhuri Day celebrations he will be presiding. So he'll be also telling Kenyans the major progress that he has done or achieved in terms of achieving the Big Four agenda in manufacturing, universal health care, affordable housing, food security. And remember, in terms of food security, right now there are about 12 counties in the Asal region battling hunger. And September this year, President Kenyatta actually declared a drought and hunger. He declared a drought and hunger a national disaster, yes. And we'll be expecting him as well to highlight to Kenyans some of the measures the government is doing in terms of dealing with the drought issue as well as hunger in all these counties.
And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has come with its own share of economic shockwaves. And the last time we had the president speak in detail during the State of the Nation address a few weeks ago, he took stock of some of the measures that or interventions that the government had put in place to deal with the whole economic repercussions of COVID-19. The measures that, of course, have been in place for quite some time to cushion not just the businesses, but also ordinary Kenyans in terms of their own survival, the day-to-day life amid the disruption of life that came after the COVID-19 pandemic. And some would say, Kirui, that he appeared to have been on the defensive to show that despite the pandemic that had happened, he actually had made some strides in rolling out what he called the Big Four. And therefore, today, possibly you could expect that the president also reflects back on what his administration has been able to do, particularly given the significance of this being the last Jamhuri Day celebrations for him before the elections next year. But of course, Kirui, these celebrations are happening at a time when we have the high-octane succession politics. And we did see what happened during the Azimio la Umoja. We know that the former Prime Minister is in the race for State House in 2022. We know his deputy, William Ruto, is in the race in 2022. In terms of the message to Kenyans, in terms of the caliber of leadership that he would expect to advance his legacy, do we expect some coded political messages from the president in the speeches today?
Well, also picking from the last Jamhuri Day address at Nyayo Stadium, just a few kilometers from here, the president actually had a coded message, specifically on matters to do with the First Amendment to the 2010 Constitution. And regarding the succession politics, that is something we'll expect as well, considering the few announcements that is had in the last few months. You look at the last function that he had in Nakuru, where Nakuru County was given that charter to be be a city, the president gave a coded message that perhaps alludes to where his support will be in the 2022 presidential race. And he was talking to the fact that wacha mbio sana, anasema wacha mbio sana, mzee atakuja, and it's like a marathon. Wewe unakimbia kama relays, but this is a marathon. So many political pundits read that to mean that he is endorsing ODM leader Raila Odinga. And he is among the guests actually who is expected to grace this function, because I have managed to see his advanced team here making arrangements. Other presidential hopefuls as well are also expected to be here. Remember, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, is among the people who've declared interest to vie in 2022. The Deputy President, William Ruto, who is also a contender in that 2022 race, will be here. We are expecting other leaders. One of them is Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, is the KANU chairman. Musalia Mudavadi, there is the NC leader. Moses Wetangula, Ford Kenya leader. And Kalonzo Musyoka is the Wiper leader. Those who have actually declared their interest to vie for presidency, and most of whom have been endorsed by the respective parties, the National Delegates Conference, to vie for that seat. So the president actually will be keen actually to see that coded message that the president will be sending out there regarding the succession politics, and as well as the matters to do with security in that specific contest.
And of course, in terms of the arrangement of the program today, we have seen that it is the governor for Nairobi, Anne Kananu Mwenda, that will be inviting the deputy president to speak. The deputy president is expected to invite the president. That has always been the tradition in the official program, but we've seen a departure from that even in Kirinyaga, when the governor, Anne Waiguru, invited the former prime minister to speak before the deputy president. And of course, there was intent in the speeches of the main speakers to try and posture themselves as the ideal leadership after President Uhuru Kenyatta. In terms of these speeches, should the former prime minister get a chance to speak here, we would expect that he will be speaking to the nation after he's already formally declared he's going to be vying for the presidency. What sort of coded message could we expect from either the deputy president or the former prime minister in relation to the whole question of management of President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession?
Of course, picking a departure from the Azimio la Umoja convent that was at Kasarani Stadium, we'll be expecting the former prime minister as well to highlight his intention to unite the country through the Azimio la Umoja, which basically, according to him, is trying to bring all the regions together, irrespective of the tribes and their regional kingpins. So that is what will actually play out as well, should the Prime Minister get an opportunity to address this function. Of course, we will be expecting him to address. And of course, on the side of the Deputy President, William Ruto, we've seen that he is positioning himself as the most appropriate candidate, considering that he was, or rather he is, the person who's been key in executing President Uhuru Kenyatta's development agenda. And that is what he fashioned himself in the last celebration in Mashujaa Day, saying that he's the best suited to take forward President Uhuru Kenyatta's development agenda.
And this is a conversation we will continue to have here. But I have my colleague, Emmanuel To, who is speaking with Wananchi. Let's get to hear Wananchi wanayepi ya kusema. Emmanuel To.
Well, thank you very much, Muremi. We are here, we're still here at the VIP entrance, where we're still speaking to some of the VIPs who've been invited to this event. We have a host of leaders drawn from different parts of the country, and the president is going to grace this event himself. And of course, if my colleague could just show you, there's a vehicle, there's a vehicle that is going to carry the president around the stadium, and that is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and that is the ceremonial vehicle that is going to be used in this event. And there, right there where you can see it, my colleague just showing you what is happening. They're still just making sure that it is clean, it is comfortable for the president, because normally when he comes, he will come in, just drop off here and greet some of the dignitaries who will be waiting for him. And we expect that the Deputy President William Ruto will also be here to welcome him. And he will enter into that vehicle, move around, go around the stadium, greet people as the plan of the program details. But that is just part of the activities that are happening here. There's a lot that is happening inside the gardens that is going to be refurbished or that has already gone through a facelift of some sort. After it is complete, we are going to have a history and a museum that is going to have history and, of course, heroes of this country, including the presidents that have served in this country since the independence. We have 4 presidents that have already come in. We're going to have another one very soon, and we're going to have a different setup that is going to hold to put their names and their sculptures somewhere to ensure that they're also celebrated during this day. And if my colleague could just show you, there's a building behind me that is going to be given opened to the public very soon in May, about 6 months or so to that date, and it's going to house several activities. There's going to be a library inside one of these buildings. We are going to have a shop, a souvenir shop, that is going also to just store the history that we have as a country for the past 59 or so years since we got our independence and since we got to be a republic. And of course, after we have that shop, the souvenir shop, we are going to have different hotels, because normally this venue is normally used for entertainment, where when artists come here, they get enough space to showcase what they have. And the people that are going to be cleared to enter here, maybe in a few days to come, are going to have everything in one stop. And that is going to maybe ease the activities that